Hello, my name is Taylor Mackenzie and I was tasked with turning a road bike into a track day bike for £10,000 by Ruroc. It's been an amazing journey. There's been a few hiccups along the way, but we've ploughed on through and we had a limited time to complete this project, and I'm going to talk you through everything that we did to this bike today. So the whole idea of this project was to build a track day bike for £10,000, and that meant buying a bike for a certain price and then using the rest of the money to build all these extra additional items. So the first thing we did was meant to complete the motorbikes and managed to pick up this GSXR750. It's a 2009 model for £5,500. That left us with £4,500 to finish the rest of the build. The first thing we wanted to upgrade was the exhaust, and that meant travelling all around the country to try and find one. It wasn't an easy task with the short time frame that we had, but luckily I managed to pick this Lextek pipe up for not a lot of money, and that was a big improvement because the original one that we had on there was the road going pipe. It had the big cat on there, which is really heavy, and all of the bolts were also rusted into the header at the front. So it was a little bit of a job getting that off, but once we did, that made a big upgrade. So one of the biggest upgrades we made on this bike was the bodywork. I was very lucky to come across this carbon fibre bodywork on eBay, and that meant buying this bodywork and swapping it for some of our road going parts. We were able to buy it quite cheaply. Otherwise, carbon fibre bodywork on a budget build wouldn't have been an option. The next step in this build was the tyres and wheels. So the wheels came with the factory blue finish with a white pinstripe, and I wanted to get rid of that because it was kind of a stealth theme that we were going for. So I went and took these to CJ Ward to get these powder coated. I then managed to pick up some Bridgestone tyres, and that completed the tyres and wheels section. Brakes were a very important part of this build. It's something that's really important on track when it comes to the handling and performance of the bike, and I did test this bike on track, and with it being road brakes that were already fitted to it, I decided to upgrade the brake pads front and rear, and that should hopefully help the performance on track. I talked earlier in this series about how important the handling of this bike was going to be for me, and really as a track day bike it's normally the area that I would look for someone to try and go faster on track. So I was less concerned about the power and more about the actual feel of the bike. So the first thing I did was change the rear sets. We had a standard road foot peg on there before which could fold up. I've now got these fixed rear sets on there in the position that I like them. I also changed the suspension. So we've got a K-Tech rear shock in here, and that will make a big difference on track. Road suspension tends to get hot quite fast and will move about quite a lot. So upgrading the shock and the front fork internals will hopefully make a huge difference on track. Although this build was mainly about the performance of the bike, I also wanted it to look nice. So I upgraded the fuel cap. We've got rid of the one that had the nasty key in there before, and this one's a lot more easier to use on track days, and also it fits a lot better with the stealth look I was going with this bike build. The overall aesthetic of this bike was really important. Ruroc are a brand that are known for their outlandish helmet designs, and they have some really cool artwork. So Daniele, my helmet designer from last year, also designed the overall graphics for this bike, and I'm really impressed with how they turned out. I love the matte black tank that we had wrapped, as well as how we've just laid graphics on top of the carbon fibre to leave the carbon fibre showing. So I'm really chuffed with how that turned out. So I did my original test at Mallory Park of this bike, and that's 10 minutes from my house. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a track day at Mallory Park in the time frame that I had. So I ventured all the way up to sunny Knock Hill in Scotland to test this bike, and I was blown away by the results. When I first set out with this project, I really wanted to focus on the overall handling of the bike. Engine performance, in my opinion, on track days isn't normally the first area that I would look to improve. What your bike feels like makes a huge difference to how you feel on track. First thing was the suspension. Road suspension always feels a little bit soft to me on track, and the faster you go and the hotter it gets, the more the whole bike will start moving about. So the suspension upgrade made a huge difference to how it felt. The brakes were the next thing, and just changing the brake pads alone really made a difference to how the lever feels. Once you get that initial bite on the lever, it feels a lot nicer to ride going into the corners when you've got more braking power. So again, that was another big area to improve. Next up, we had the exhaust, and although I said I wasn't focusing that much on the performance from the engine of the bike, putting a better exhaust on there really did make a difference. Getting rid of the cat got rid of a lot of the weight on the bike, and we also ran it up on the dyno to put a map in this to map it to the exhaust. So not only does it sound better now, it also looks a lot nicer and gave the bike a lot more power off the bottom end as it was coming out of the tighter corners. We also changed the bodywork for carbon fibre bodywork, and not only did we use carbon fibre bodywork, we also took things like the mirrors, the heavier foot pegs, the exhaust, and all these little things added up to quite a lot of weight overall. And when you're riding a bike on track that feels a lot lighter, it's a lot more nimble through places like the chicane, and also up the start finish you can really feel a lot more acceleration when you get rid of that weight. The last upgrade was the tyres, and in all honesty, tyres to me is one of the first things anyone should be doing if they're looking to build a track day bike. If you use road tyres on track, they're great because they heat up quite fast and you can get up to speed quite quickly. However, when you do start pushing and you want to start leaning the bike over more, road tyres, I felt, especially at Mallory Park, start moving around quite a lot and you have quite a lot of slides for no reason whatsoever. So moving on to these Bridgestone tyres was a big upgrade and helped the bike feel a lot nicer, especially mid-corner, when you're trying to get your knee down, and also when you're accelerating that first bit of acceleration, you feel like you've got a lot more control. So that was another nice upgrade and one that you can do relatively cheaply too. This has been the £10,000 Ruroc track bike build. I've thoroughly enjoyed the whole project. I hope you have too, and I'll see you very soon on track.